We've learned a lot as our breaking news coverage continues of the shooting at Florida State. I want to bring in the former Assistant Director of the FBI, Chris Swecker, here on NewsNation. Welcome, sir. You know, this young man who they say is the shooter, the 20-year-old, his mom's a sheriff's deputy. They were talking in the news conference about how he was in some sort of a training program, which turns out was a youth advisory council, I guess with the police force. This is when he was in high school, at Lincoln High School. Now he's a student at FSU. Your thoughts about all we're learning?
Yeah, that was an extraordinary revelation. I almost fell out of my chair when I heard him say that so matter-of-factly. Now your mind goes to, I was a prosecutor before I was an FBI agent, so I sort of look at things both ways. Now you start to look at whether there's some criminal negligence here that is going to be a part of the investigation. Obviously, the shooter, there'll be a prosecution there. And they're gathering evidence on that now. But I think that there's more than that suspect under active investigation at this point. And I think that's probably the most notable aspect of what's going on right now behind the scenes.
This youth program in particular was a huge revelation to you. Why? Talk more about it.
Well, not so much a youth program, but the fact that it was a sheriff's deputy's child that did the shooting.
Yeah, no, we all fell off our chair when we heard that.
They used a sheriff's
Absolutely.
weapon. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it sounds like he actually used a sheriff's weapon. So that gun was available to him. It's a service weapon. It shouldn't be available. I carried a weapon, obviously for 25 years. My children would have never had access to that weapon.
We were having the conversation earlier, legally, and former law enforcement officials as well about, because you probably if you remember what they said at the news conference about how it didn't seem like it was her current service weapon, right? She had bought it from the department, but that wouldn't necessarily matter, would it, in the criminal negligence investigation?
No, not really. I mean, it just, having carried a weapon for 25 years, it's your worst nightmare. This is sort of your worst nightmare, that your gun goes missing and it's used in a crime. That's bad enough, let alone that your own child committed the crime with your weapon. So, it might be a stretch for criminal liability, but I can guarantee you that's part of the investigation.
How would you handle as a supervisor of an officer like this? That was asked in the news conference. I think it was they sidestepped it to some degree, saying, well, we're going to investigate. The direct question, I believe, was, well, is she on leave? They were asking about her status.
Yeah, he praised the officer, and
yeah.
It sounds 18 years, a great record, has done good things as a sheriff's deputy. I mean, she has to be on suspension pending the investigation. I don't see any other way. I'm not sure what their procedures are in the sheriff's department. I didn't catch the part. If he did say that he had suspended her, I didn't catch that.
No, he said he was just, he didn't answer the question directly. Just said we're going to investigate all angles of it. The question was whether she was on leave, and he said he didn't really answer it. What else stands out to you about this event? It's almost like we cover so many shootings, unfortunately, whether they're high school or colleges or whatever the case may be. What about this one in particular, other than the obvious fact, which we already talked about, which is the identity of the suspect?
Well, a couple things. I mean, Florida State has had a shooting in the past, and it looked to me like they had training in place, they had procedures in place, they were actually employed, and those procedures are run, hide, fight. You run if you can, you hide if someone's nearby and you can't escape, and you fight if you have to. And in this case, I saw many interviews across several media outlets of eyewitnesses and people who were present. Some ran, some hid. Yeah. I don't know of any, we haven't got any information about anybody actually resisting, but we know that the second notable aspect is law enforcement responded right away. We're way past the days of Columbine, where they would very methodically come in and try to assess the situation and deliberately try to confront the shooter in a very, very measured way. In this case, they went right at him, and that's what you're supposed to do. We've seen that executed poorly at Parkland, and it looks like here it was done exactly the way it was supposed to be done.
Sometimes different on college campuses. I wonder what we've learned over the years. The worst, I feel like a lot of this started in terms of college campuses at Virginia Tech years ago. That was just this is a terrible, terrible situation. Since then,
Texas.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.